record. This is the first time I've gotten the paid Zoom, and I'm like, okay, I'm a fish out of water because
Yeah.
usually I'm an attendee and not,
Ah,
the
right, right,
one.
right, right. Is
Um,
it light enough here? Do you want me to
no,
like
no,
a ring light?
you are
Good.
perfect.
Okay. I can't really tell on the little tiny thing.
Oh, I know, I know. Um, Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to hear more about you, so I can do the best I can to write your spotlight and
Great.
all the fun things. So when I looked at your creativity club, um, the Angel Arts, now you have a other businesses?
Yes, Angel Arts is my main business, and the Explorers Creativity Club falls under that. And then I also help my husband run an architectural business.
Okay, and so
Mhm.
your Angel Arts, is that graphics?
That is part of it. It's arts and entrepreneurialism, so that can encompass, excuse me, graphics, help with publishing. It can encompass inspirational products. Like I just wrote a 6 week, which I call Dreamy Marriage Challenge. Gosh, can I speak? It's all online,
Right.
and I do book publishing, and then I write homeschool curriculum and all sorts of kinds of things. So basically, anything to do
Wow.
with the arts and entrepreneurialism.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah.
So out of that kind of, it just makes sense that it's um, an extension for the
Yes,
Explorers Creativity Club.
yes. It's
And
the local embodiment of basically the side of me that's a nerd and loves fantasy.
I hear you there.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I'll have to join every once in a while somewhere. So tell me in general, where are you from to begin with?
Where I'm from, I am a Colorado native,
You are.
but I was an Air Force brat, so I moved around a lot
Okay.
till I moved back in my early preteens to Colorado, and I've been here since, for the
Right.
most part. Hmm.
Where were you born in
I,
Colorado?
I was born at the Air Force Academy. My father was a instructor slash professor at the academy. Yep.
Oh,
I was
wow.
literally born on the academy.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Hmm.
That's a first.
Yeah. I don't remember anything about the academy because we left when I was 18 months old. So, yep.
And then what happened when how old were you when you started to move around?
18 months.
Okay, so from there,
Yeah.
then he
We
got
moved to England where my dad was a instructor, professor, or whatever you call it at the Royal Air Force,
okay.
north of England. And then we
Wow.
moved to Washington State and New Mexico and finally back up to Colorado. And that's just me. I'm the fifth child, so
Okay.
I didn't move around as much as like the oldest.
Oh, okay.
That's 10 years older. Yeah.
That's Oh wow, that's
Uh,
funny. It's I didn't move around as much, but yet that sounded like a whole lot.
yeah, yeah, no, no, it really wasn't that much compared to the oldest.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's right.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so how old were you when you came back to Colorado?
11. My dad retired from the Air Force and he went to work for what was then Martin Marietta.
Okay.
Hmm. So
Um,
I went to school up in Littleton
okay. And then how did you get back to Colorado Springs?
for junior high and high school.
Oh, perfect. Uh,
So I was always, you asked me what brought me to the Springs. So I grew up, my grandparents lived in Wyoming. So we'd go back and forth on the highway every time. There's the academy. There's where you were born. There's the academy. There's where you're born. There's the academy. There's where you're born. And then, in high school, one of my brothers is 4 years ahead of me, so he actually went to the academy. So I went there a lot. That
okay.
was much more fun for me than for him. Trust me. So then, went to college. I got involved in this Christian group called the Navigators, who owns the Glen Eyrie Castle. I came
Oh,
down there for college conferences. I fell in love with the place fell all over in love with God. And so I felt like I was spiritually born here. I was physically born here, but spiritually born too. So when I graduated from college, I began to think, where do I want to go? And I had this big pro con list, and Colorado Springs was on the top of the list. And that's where the Navigators were, and I wanted to work for them. So that's where I came, and I did get hired by them eventually. And that's where I met my husband on a blind date at their
Oh,
magical
wow.
dinner. So,
Wow.
yeah. So that's how I ended up here.
All right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's was definitely meant to be.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was, yeah, but it was definitely that, oh, you were born there. You were born there.
Right. They really ingrained it in you.
Yes, they did.
Okay, well, it was meant to be in many ways.
Yes, it was. So,
I love that.
yeah.
Um, okay, so then I want to get just a little bit more, just so we have it nice and clean here. Just introduce yourself and the name of your business for the Creativity Club because that's what we're gonna focus
Hmm.
on. And
Hmm.
then, kind of, you're the creator and all that. So, that's your role, but kind of, you know, just introduce yourself, the business, what brought you to it, why you created it, and a little bit of the history, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
All right. So go.
ready, go.
I'm Dana Susan Beasley, and I'm the program director of a club that I founded called Explorers Creativity Club. And our focus is on live action role playing with kids 11 through 17. And what we do is we take, or I do, I write all the curriculum. I take the Bible, I take history, and I kind of mesh it all together into either a role-playing scenario like Dungeons and Dragons, or actually live action, which is improv acting. And I teach these kids, or we teach these kids, how to sword fight, how to do ditch battling. We play a lot of fun games. And then I help them connect the dots, so to speak, with what they're acting out to what the Bible says in history, and sometimes really fun legends. Like this year, we're doing Arthurian legends.
Oh,
So I've started this in 2017, and I started it because my son, whom I homeschooled, was really stuck in front of his computer. He has what was called back then Asperger's, more like probably they called autism level 1. And he was just stuck there. And the only person he really talked to was me. And so I was concerned, and I started to talk to one of my nephews about this and his wife. And there was this funny background back in when I was 8 years old. My third grade teacher read the Chronicles of Narnia. She read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to the class. And I fell in love with it. And so after that, my friends and I were playing Narnia in our backyard, in a mesa in our backyard. And so we were always doing that. And that's how I grew up. I taught my oldest nieces and nephews how to do that. I have like 15 of them. And they
wow.
taught their siblings, who taught their siblings, who finally taught one of my nephews. And so we were talking about this, and we thought, why not start a LARPing club? Because lo and behold, I was doing LARPing all that time, and I had no idea what it was. I was just a kid in the 70s, and it was pretend play. That's all,
Yeah.
like, that's what it was. So we turned it into this LARPing club for homeschoolers, and we've been doing that since 2017. So I can't even count that. We're like on our 7th season or something like that. The pandemic kind of throws things off. We also
Right.
do summer camps. We are going to be doing our summer camp in the end of June again. So, I did it for my son because he was so stuck, and it helped him so much. Now he is graduated from high school. My nephew has gone back home to New Mexico. And so it's just him and me, and sometimes my husband. And my son is my assistant, and he helps teach the sword fighting techniques with his brain. He learned German sword fighting
Wow.
techniques. you know,
I didn't
and
know there
so
was a difference.
I know, I was just gonna say, I didn't know that was the thing, but yeah, he studies things to like this deep dive you wouldn't believe. So yeah, so he's my assistant, and now he pretty much talks to everybody. He's not in his own little world in front of the computer all the time. And also, what's really great about this is there are so many kids like him who are special needs, who don't have an outlet. They're not into the traditional sports. They've got these. They love Token. They love Narnia. They love role playing. Some of them love acting, and so and they also, some of them love making the things because they also make swords and other
Okay.
weapons and other accessories. So yeah, so it gives them a creative outlet, and it really helps these kids, especially those who are autistic, to take on their own character and express that. And it's really life-giving to them.
Right.
So that is really the greatest thing about this, is how I can help the community with that. Not only homeschoolers, but once a month we have a Saturday club where any kind of schooling situation can come. So I hope that answered
Yeah,
all
you
your
are
questions.
great. So tell me, what is your son's name?
Sam.
Sam. Okay.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
oh, that's right. Um, and how old was Sam when you started?
Oh my gosh, you're asking me to do math. Okay, so he's 24
Ish.
now. He's 24. It was 2017. So what is that? Seven, three.
7 years ago?
Yeah. So he must have been,
8 years ago.
yeah,
He's
seven
about
or eight.
20,
It was about 20, 19,
19.
maybe.
Yep, 19, 20. Okay, so
Maybe
then
a little younger. I can't remember.
that's okay. So it was something that you saw in him, the autism and all that kind of stuff. And so
Hmm.
between whenever it started to show up in 17, did you have an outlet for him yet, or was it
Well, okay, so I started homeschooling Sam in 2008 in second grade, and that's when I understood finally that there was such a thing as Asperger's, or different kinds of, I guess you call them, I don't know, manifestations of autism,
okay?
different, the spectrum, all that. I didn't know anything before that. And so I did lots of different things. Like I had a version of Explorers Creativity Club of just educational fun activities. I did that for a while. And I always did very out of the box kinds of curriculum. We did a lot of
I
unschooling.
love that.
Yes. And there is a man named Danny Rady of AspergerExperts.com that I ran across, and he is a man with Asperger's. He's in his 30s now, but he started this organization to help mothers and individuals with autism. And what he said was, one thing he said was, your child is probably in what's called defense mode, and that's why they're all on the computer. What you have to do is you have to get into their world, do whatever you can to get into your world. So I started noticing around 2017 that my son was spending a lot of time playing these skirmish video games, all
Okay.
these medieval video games. And and of course, like me, he liked Token and all that stuff.
So do I,
So,
by the way.
oh, good.
Love it.
Good hell, live and breathe it. So, yeah, so that is what kind of gave us the idea, because he was in high school at the time. So that's how we came up with that idea. But there was a long period in there, it was kind of like up and down with his selective mutism, and it was getting worse, and that's why I was concerned.
Okay. And
Yeah.
now once you started the club,
Mhm.
and did he start off kind of shy and slow, or was he already kind of into it?
No, he started off more shy. He was one of the students at that time.
Right.
And so, but he got to go out there and do his sword fighting, which he liked, and make the weapons. And so he got a lot, as he, went on, he got a lot more progressively comfortable with it.
Okay.
So
And now
yeah,
he's your assistant and he's
yeah.
talking to everybody so that as a mother and a creative, that
Hmm.
just had to have been, as you watch that, that must just open your heart so much that,
Oh yeah.
that's amazing that you get to use what you love, and you
Hmm.
had an issue that, you not solve, but you had to work
Yeah,
with, and you put the
exactly.
two together, and the outcome sounds like it's amazing.
Yes, and again, the great part is we get to help all these other families who are in the same situation. And there are
Right.
different ways. Everyone, as they say, anyone with autism, if you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. So they're all different. They have their different challenges. But we get to help them in that way, and that's very exciting.
Right. I find the similar thing with Alzheimer's.
Oh, okay.
The same mindset with
Okay.
that. Um, so that's interesting. Um, okay, so then who is this club for? Is it do you have different groups, like um, some for autism, some for other things, or is it a mix, or how's that work?
It's a mix of what they call nowadays neurotypical and neurodivergent. And it's not just autism. There's, ADD, ADHD, that kind of thing. And then it's for, as I said before, 11 to 17-year-olds. We meet on Thursdays and Saturdays. So the Thursdays are for homeschoolers or those who school at home. Like if they're online, have an online school and they can leave for the afternoon. And then on once a month Saturdays is for any schooling situation.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then so what times are the Thursdays?
All the times, including Saturdays, are 1:30 to 4:30.
Okay.
And the Thursdays, it's a little different because we meet at Living Hope Church up
Okay.
on Manitou Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then where do
Mhm.
you meet on Saturdays?
Saturdays, we meet at our residence
Oh, okay.
on the west side. It's not far at all from the church.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you must have a big yard.
Yes. And that is what was so appealing because we started out at the YMCA over at Garden Ranch, which is no more anymore. And they double booked us and we're like, gosh, we have this huge yard. Why not do it here? So we did until we got involved in Living Hope Church. Now we're members, and they graciously let us have classes, what we call classes.
Right.
Mind you, it's not a traditional class. I don't sit down
Right.
and lecture them for an hour.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so they're letting us do that and the summer camp as well. So they
Is
have a
that
huge field.
okay? Is that so your classes, obviously they're interactive and all that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's
I
loosely said.
Right. I try to make it as interactive as possible, although it's sharing about history and the Bible. Sometimes I don't know how to do that totally 100% interactive.
Right. Right. Well,
So
and
yeah.
so as you're doing these, what is the goal for each one? And is it a like a curriculum kind of thing that it starts at like the spring sessions are already in full, it's already started, right?
Yes. So how it works is I decide on a theme the year before, like in March, which means I have to do that this month. Um,
For next
so
year.
right.
Okay.
So I start with a Bible theme, and I started with the armor of God. And from Ephesians 6:10 through 18, somewhere around there. And so then I decided on the history period, and we kind of rotate. We went from ancient, what was it? It might have been Greek history. I think we did ancient Greek history, and then I decided to do Vikings for the summer camp, and it extended it into the whole English history in the medieval times with the Vikings up until 1066. So then I write the storyline one one class or event at a time beforehand. I have to do that this afternoon or
Okay.
tomorrow. But
Okay.
so I take all that and I put it in my fantasy world that I created. I started creating this world when I was a preteen.
Right.
And so I just took everything I had done and expanded it and used it for the world that we quote unquote play in. This
You're
world.
your own token.
I am. I actually when I was a senior in high school, I took creative writing and my English professor said because I had shown him my novel at the time, which I'd be embarrassed about now, and he goes, Dana is the next J.R. Token and or C.S. Lewis. No pressure. But yes, I used to do dungeon master stuff, Dungeons and Dragons, all that. But
Okay.
yeah. So I write the curriculum from September after Labor Day when we start all the way to usually we end in April with a storyline, a big overarching storyline with a finish, with a beginning and a big finish, which usually ends up with a big boss battle with Sam because he's the enemy. He
Okay.
plays the enemy. Yes.
Always.
Yeah. So, but anyone can enroll at any time. It doesn't mean that they can't.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So, I don't have like closed enrollment
Okay.
per se. And then once a month on Saturdays, the I open it to anybody, well, 11 through 17, et cetera, et cetera, who wants to come. They can come for free. They can play what's called a non-player character that are pre-written, and they can just test it out, see if they like it. And a lot of times they become members. I just got a new member today who
Oh,
came in February and liked it. And so she and her, let's see, the brother and sister are joining. So that's going to expand our club. And then in December, we have a medieval feast, and it's based on the magical dinner that Travis and I, my husband and I, met at, and we've gone to it several times. So I took those elements and I stripped them down to make it accessible and cheaper.
right.
Paper plates and so forth for kids. And so we do that. We've done that now 2 times in a row at the church, which is really good because I can't fit more than 20.
All
And
right.
we must have had like 30 at least at the church. So it was great. So yeah, so we do that. And then in the spring, the first Thursday of May, we have what's called a knighting award ceremony. And my husband, who plays, I play a queen. Oh, here. Whoops. Sorry.
It's okay.
Here. Let me
Oh,
introduce.
I love
I'm
it.
Queen Amadorian,
I love it.
and my husband is King Darian. And so we have this sword that we got at a thrift store from the academy, one of those academy stores, and he will knight them, quote unquote, knight them. And then I'll have an award and some kind of little gift that I find, and I'll speak, nice words about them in front of their parents. And usually we have like a sword tournament and somebody wins a prize. And, it's our end of the year celebration. So.
I
And then
love
there's a
it.
summer camp, which is kind of a mini school year experience, all compacted in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So this year we're doing pirates.
Okay. It's a little bit different.
Yes.
Wow.
That'll be
You
interesting.
you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's just Explorers Creativity Club. So yeah.
I know. Are you going to say, Sandy? You have no idea.
Yeah, right. Just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the Explorers Club, um, what do you find basically the most rewarding out of doing, this? You've been doing it for like 7 years or so. So what do you find the most rewarding out of it?
So watching the kids enjoy themselves and express themselves and the growth that I see. in these kids, like one of my kids, one of the
Yeah.
students, he's been coming, he's probably our longest member now, like 3 or 4 years or something. And he has grown into such a leader. He's pretty much the leader of the whole pack. And he leads his own games with them.
That's
Like we go through like all the ditch battling and the role playing on Thursdays, and I go over the devotional and the history and all that stuff. And then at 4 o'clock, he usually runs a game period, and they might do Hunger Games, they might do something else, but he runs it entirely himself. And he has his reward system all worked out, and he helps me with, yeah, he helps me with the tournaments. He's got this bracket system all down, which I don't get at all.
right.
And then he wants to help me rewrite the player's handbook because there's some stuff about it that's off balance. So he wants to help me with that. So yeah, it's watching kids like him grow, into who they're meant to be, and
Right.
that's rewarding.
So, if anybody who joins, they'll meet him.
Yes,
And what's his name?
his name is Lucas, and he has
Lucas.
a little
Okay.
brother named Vinny, and
Okay.
Vinny is Vinny is Vinny. He's very energetic and creative.
The exact
Very
type of kids that you welcome.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we don't all fit into a box of, well, I like these academics, or, and this is for that kid who doesn't fit those boxes, and that's okay. I
Right.
used to call my home the Island of Misfit Toys from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
That's in my head. I know it
Yeah,
very well.
yeah. So, I mean, we're all so different. I mean, my son is Asperger's. My husband also has Asperger's or autism. And I'm this way out, crazy creative person. And we're just so different. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And then I realized I don't have to fit in. That's okay. And I can gather all these people who feel the same way, and we can all be a tribe together and have fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that, and I'll talk to that a little bit later. Um,
Okay.
okay, so um, now I'm curious myself. So how did you or how or why did you pick biblical? And then like with the history and stuff, kind of bringing it together. And what's funny is way back in the 80s, when D&D came out, it was that, I mean, the whole thing between the churchgoers and the D&D, and
Oh,
that was
yes,
a huge.
satanic. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
So how did
So,
you marry the two? You're
well,
outside the box thinking, I know.
yeah. So, even way before this happened, my nephew once lived with us. Um, and he'd gotten into all this stuff because really me. And he got into Dungeons and Dragons, got into Society of Creative Anachronism, and we realized that role playing could be an amazing tool for school. So we started to incorporate that with Sam's school. And and then so it kind of grew from there. But the reason why Bible is because, as I mentioned, I used to work for the Navigators, and I wholeheartedly believe in their mission. Oh my gosh, I wholeheartedly believe in their mission to know Christ and to make him known. That I consider myself an ambassador for Christ, and I want children, kids, to understand that God loves them and he died for them and that he's there for them. Because here's the real deal. When I was a teenager, and this will answer your other question too, I didn't have anybody helping me. I was lost in the 80s, typical 80s craziness, the drinking and all of that.
Okay.
And I had turned my back on God. And so, but I had suicidal thoughts, and I had nobody to help me. Nobody. And so it was only God that brought me through that. And so if I can be there for one kid, then, and I'm getting chills,
I
it
am
was worth
too.
it. Yeah, it was so worth it. It is so worth it because, and that's the thing too that my nephew and I kept talking about when we started this. The suicide rate in this town is so high, and it only got worse after the pandemic. So that is one of the reasons why I am so committed to this, and why, you know, who I am is a person who God saved through a lot of turmoil and darkness. And it would be selfish of me not to share that in a very loving, respectful way. So that is why I do what I do. Now, in terms of the satanic panic, so I did not grow up in the church really. And I wasn't aware of that when we did Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't really know anything about that. And I had let the whole fantasy side of me go for a long time. And then I don't remember when I started getting reconnected with it, probably around the same time my nephew and I started talking about role playing. But what I came to realize is that any tool, any Dungeons and Dragons is just a tool. And anybody can do anything with it, positive or bad. It really depends on who is running it. And so, yes, there are those Christians who will be like, oh, there's magic spells. They won't even read Narnia
Right.
because it's, or Tolkien.
Right, right,
And those aren't the people we're trying to reach. Fine, believe what you want to believe, go ahead. But they're not who we're trying to reach. That's fine. But I mean, Tolkien himself was a Christian. C.S. Lewis was a Christian. So, there is that element in there already. And I believe that, the Apostle Paul said to reach people, if you, reach the Romans, you become a Roman. So why not use this tool for good? And that's how we came to think about it. And then again, we thought, wow, this is a really powerful way to teach school. And history is a passion that I have, that my son has. So, it was the natural way to do that because we're just so passionate about history. Sam will, I mean, he's probably one of the very few kids that knows about Prussia. I don't even know much about
right.
Prussia. He knows about styles that people wore in medieval times. I mean, he just he knows all this stuff. So
Right,
so we thought let's use it all.
right.
So that's kind of how we came to that. Yeah, I mean, satanic panic thing. That
It is. So, is there a particular group that you are trying to reach? Or is it just anybody who doesn't fit in, come on in?
pretty much, yeah. It's again within that 11 through 17, although we would love to get an adult group going, but we just haven't had the time for that. But yeah, pretty much 11 through 17, mostly homeschoolers, but doesn't have to be,
But what
and
about, so it doesn't have to be a certain faith or even have
no,
a faith. It
mm,
doesn't have, okay,
no, we just ask that they read our statement of faith and that they don't have to agree to it, but we'd like them to respect it.
okay, makes
That's
sense.
pretty much where and we have certain code of conduct rules that the kids need to follow. Like we don't allow bullying, we don't allow name calling, all that stuff. So we are a wholesome, family oriented club. And if it fits within that, and if they can respect what we believe, and they can respectfully listen through a devotional, because really anybody can learn anything from anything, you
Right,
know? So I try to relate it to the kids and bring them in and, talk about like say you're into martial arts, like one of my kids is, well, what's it like for you are you afraid sometimes when you're facing an opponent? And what do you do when you're afraid? And, I try to give them life skills
right,
through those lessons because there's so many life lessons that are in those scriptures. And it can apply to anyone really because they're universal and the Bible is the bestseller of history. So
right, right.
Yeah.
And the word devotional in general, that could mean anything. That doesn't have to be biblical. That doesn't have to be, a devotional could be something, your own mantra um, and quiet time, and and going through something. It doesn't always have to be religious, a connotation for a religious. It's something spiritual, whatever that means to you.
Yeah, they can glean anything from it, though my source is always the scripture,
Right,
you know.
right,
Right. So, and that's, I study the scripture myself first and write about it, and then I turn it into I try to make it, question oriented, try to engage them as possible, ask them some in, interesting questions that they'll be able to think about and talk
yeah,
about, rather than me just lecturing for
right.
5 minutes. That doesn't go well.
Not with that group.
Like, no, no, I'm preteens and teens.
I get you.
Yeah, so I try to keep that to a minimum, but that's hard. But no, no, I always start with the Bible, and then help them see the life lessons in it, regardless of where they're
Right,
coming
right.
from. Hmm.
Great. So then, is there anything in particular you want me to focus in on this article?
Oh, I am not sure. I mean, that so depends on your audience.
Okay.
Um,
So mine is, just so you know, it's mostly women 50 and older, so us
oh, okay.
in general. However, they do have grandkids, in
Oh,
the area, so you never
hmm,
know.
right.
They're and you never know who their neighbors are, who they
Hmm,
can
hmm,
tell. They're
hmm.
definitely people who will spread the word,
Great.
and when they latch on something.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, I don't think they know this is out there, and
No, not
whether
very many
it's
people do.
right. And, we don't know who they interact with. So,
Yeah.
it's, I'm not speaking to the moms,
Mhm.
but I'm speaking to the grandmoms,
Right.
grandmothers. And, and it's more of my goal for the article is to first introduce you, and then have the audience endear themselves to you in some way. And then what you create is the byproduct of it. So basically,
Mm.
it's going to be, you, but I think having them open their eyes on, how amazing you are, and
Always
creative.
feel amazing, trust me.
We don't in general, but I hear it, and and
Mm,
I feel it.
mm,
So with that, and that there's somebody there, and not only that, but maybe it's something they might want to help with. Maybe they're connected,
yeah,
and maybe they haven't had an outlet or something, and they want to give back or whatever. We just don't know. What I'm
mhm.
trying to do is spark their imagination.
That's great. Yeah, I like those words a
Yeah.
lot. So when do you plan on having it out?
Next Wednesday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
um,
as far as being involved, right after that is our monthly event at my house, and then the major thing will be the summer camp at the end of June.
yeah. Okay. So
Hmm.
then, how can people get a hold of you? How can they find you? Just tell me that. And, also you might want to let us know where the church is in Manitou, just outside of OCC, I assume.
Not quite.
Okay. So tell us where the
Yeah.
church is, tell us where
Yeah.
you are, and like the address.
Table.
That's okay.
Yeah.
And
So,
then how people can find you if they want more information.
all right. So, okay, first we'll address the church. The church is on Manitou Boulevard, which is actually right off of 19th Street
Oh,
in
okay.
Uinta.
Uh-huh.
There's a funny street name called Manitou Boulevard. And I know you think it's Manitou, but it's not. So it's up this hill, on the hill that's like there's two hills over there overlooking the city, and one is the Pinery, and one is this church, Living Hope Church. You'll recognize it because it looks like a ship when you're, down on the ground. But yeah, so that's where that is. So it's very close to Uinta Gardens, and our house is just on the other side of 19th. So, so we're located near 19th and Uinta. And let's see, the other question was how can they reach me? So they could go to my Facebook page, Explorers Creativity Club. They can go to, and I'm assuming you're going to write this down too, explorerslarpingclub.com is the main web page for the club, and it will have a link to the summer camp. So just to keep things simple, once I get that summer camp information done, which will have to be this month, I have to get it done by April 11th because I'm in the resource library at 21C. They have a homeschool resource fair there every year.
Okay.
So yeah. So explorerslarpingclub.com is the webpage that explains it all. And then Explorers Creativity Club is the Facebook page.
Okay.
Those are the best ways.
Okay. Make sure you give me that information on when you're at 21C so I can put that
Oh,
in there.
okay. Yeah.
And so people can come and see you.
Yeah,
if they
yeah.
want
April
to.
11th. There's going to be there's always a ton of resources there. It is expand. I've done it every year since they started, and it is expanded. It's on 2 floors. It's an amazing thing.
Right. Right.
Hmm.
Great. Okay. Is there anything else you think we missed?
Don't think so.
Okay.
Can't think of anything.
Okay. So,